why your trip on an airplane could be a little bit more difficult. We'll talk about that coming up right after traffic and weather.
If that is indeed possible.
At 7:15, we'll get back into the Secret Service story that seems to be growing with KT McFarland. Also, big election today in Egypt. We'll talk to KT from McFarland, Fox News national security analyst at 7:36. Chris Moody's on the line right now, political reporter for Yahoo News. Filled in for Brian Wilson several weeks ago. Did a great job. Chris, great to have you back on the show.
I won't be taking any vacation anytime soon. He did such a good job.
Yeah. So when are you going to get the exclusive interview with Uncommitted? And will that be splashed on the Yahoo front page when you do?
Well, I'm going to have to get down to coal country to find him. I think that's the real question.
So the president, wins in Kentucky, but, he's uncommitted. Got it. What was it?
41.5% of the vote.
That has to concern the re-election team.
And after what happened in West Virginia, this is not just an isolated issue. Barack Obama has severe trouble in the South, and especially in coal country. He hasn't been supportive. He's been publicly a little supportive, but his policies have not necessarily been supportive of coal. And the electorate down there are paying him back for it.
All right, but Kentucky's one thing, West Virginia's one thing, but can it then expand into Ohio and Pennsylvania? Because obviously he needs to at least win Pennsylvania, maybe not necessarily Ohio, but those are the states that are bigger when it comes to coal country than Kentucky and West Virginia, where he's obviously having some problems.
Well, I think Obama's detractors are going to try to spread that message into those states. Whether or not they're successful is yet to be seen. I think up there you've got a little bit more diversity in the vote, and so it's not going to be as clear cut as we've seen in these other states. But this is something that I think the president's campaign is really going to have to focus on and try to make the best of, because it's really not looking good for them.
All right, I want to talk about the continuing saga of Cory Booker. If you've not been following this story, Cory Booker is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, an Obama candidate surrogate, goes on one of the Sunday talk shows and says he's uncomfortable with the attacks on Bain Capitol, and says that such attacks are, and this is his word, crap. And, of course, he got taken to the Democratic woodshed very quickly. He sort of walked some of that back because he wasn't touting the Obama line. How significant is this in the long run?
Well, this is a really fascinating story. I think in the words of Shepard Smith from Fox News, it shows that politics is sometimes weird and creepy. What Cory Booker was saying was something from the heart. He actually believed it on Sunday. And then, the Obama administration obviously got in touch with him, and he had to make what some people call the hostage video apology, saying he stands by the president. And so what we see here is a divide between normal America and Washington. In normal America, you say what you think, and, it's fine. You go on with your life. And in Washington, sometimes you have to put the party before your own ideas. And so this is something that makes perfect sense. In Washington, you are a surrogate for President Obama, so you stand in the line and you say what you're supposed to say. But I think to the American people that are paying attention, this looks very strange. Why would this guy all of a sudden completely change his viewpoint within a couple of hours? It looks fishy.
Well, the latest to have the hostage video, I guess it was a hostage letter, was Stephen Ratner, the car czar, who came out and said that Bain has nothing to be ashamed of for what they did. What they did was perfectly fine. He has now written an op-ed saying that basically, we can look into the record and we can go into that. If Bain Capital, like other private equity firms, were doing some things wrong, then it's something that we need to look at.
But Chris, isn't this a really key argument for the Obama administration? Because look, just like Brian was talking a moment ago, they've got to do well with those white workers in states like Ohio, and they got to do in Pennsylvania. And this is an argument that might resonate with them, that, Romney's he's looking out for the fat cats. He doesn't care about the little guy like you.
Well, that's something Obama's trying to do. He's saying at Bain Capital he was looking out for the bottom line, and as president you have to look out for everybody, and he's hoping that'll resonate, and that can cross-pollinate into Ohio and Pennsylvania. Although last night Larry Sabato, who's a political expert from the University of Virginia, said that these results in Kentucky and West Virginia show that the Obama administration may have serious trouble with white working-class voters, and so he's probably going to do a lot more research on that coming up, but it's not looking good.
We're talking with Chris Moody, political reporter for Yahoo News. Is it just me, or has Mitt Romney kind of disappeared? I haven't seen him on TV all that much. There hasn't been all that much buzz about Romney himself, other than the stuff about Bain Capital where Cory Booker started. But what's he been up to?
Well, he's never been very out there with the press. He's always been a little bit shy. However, I would think that he's allowing Cory Booker to do all the talking for him. There are times when you can just step back and let the world work for you without touching it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Obviously, he's going to have to come up and be a little bit more public here going forward. But I think he's watching from the wings, and he'll plan his entrance very soon.
All right. So there's some evidence that the president's got some issues with white working class voter, blue collar workers. But when you look at the electoral math, it still looks very, very tight, doesn't it?
Oh, the race is going to be very tight. The president usually has a bit of an edge going into when they're defending their own seat or their own position. No one is taking anything for granted here. I think both campaigns are working meticulously on grassroots outreach, because I think they're going to need every community edge they can get and every vote they can. No one's expecting a win here, even I think within the Obama administration.
By the way, Congressman Clyburn said that the Romney was raping companies. Has he been questioned about that? I mean, obviously, if a Republican had used that term, that the president did something that when he used it as rape, there would be a lot of outrage on that. Has he been pushed further on exactly using that term?
He has. A bunch of reporters reached out to his office, and you'll love the response from his spokesman. He said Congressman Clyburn was using rape to mean to plunder or to steal, not in the other definition. That was his response. So take it or leave it. It's just them walking. I mean, I don't think they walked it back. I think he stood by the word.
Right.
That's the word he wanted to use. But they're using, what is that, the 14th definition of the Webster's Dictionary there?
All right. Any buzz about vice presidential picks?
Well, the buzz right now is everybody's clamming up. It's that time when the Romney the Romney campaign is probably sending out the paperwork that's a big folder full of penetrating questions for these guys. And once you get that folder and you're part of the process, you hush. So everybody's been very careful about what they're saying. I think one of the most colorful responses, though, when asked if he was going to be a possible vice presidential pick, was Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels, and he is vehemently opposed to having this job. It's almost funny. His response was, if I hear I'm getting that call from Romney, I'm hanging up my phone or I'm disconnecting my phone. So he's the only one who's been very vocal about it. Everybody else has been really coy. Well, I don't know. I like what I'm doing now, but no, we know that most of these guys are pretty interested in it. So it's going to be fascinating to see who he ultimately picks.
All right. Chris Moody, who is with Yahoo News. Good to have you with us here on Brian and Brian.
Great to be